Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking a resource that is, it's deceptively simple, but it's also incredibly effective.
Right.
We're going to drill down into this foundational framework, a kind of story-driven guide that was made not just to define social anxiety, but to normalize it. And I think this is the critical part, to give the reader a simple, actionable toolkit to talk about what they're feeling.
That distillation is absolutely key.
Right.
We often assume that to discuss these complex emotional states, you need complex vocabulary, clinical terms.
Fair, yeah.
Exactly. But this material works on the complete opposite principle. It strips all of that away. It uses a story to make the feeling valid and then gives you the absolute clearest, simplest words and phrases you need.
And that's a strategic choice. So our mission in this deep dive is really to analyze why that simplicity works so well. We want to find the insights hidden in its structure, how it validates the feeling, gives you these immediate coping mechanisms, and reframes success, all through really direct language.
Well, the whole framework, its success hinges on that first move, which is normalization. It doesn't beat around the bush at all.
It gets right to it.
It starts right away, just acknowledging many people feel nervous around others, and it is okay to talk about it. That sentence is immediate permission. It's validation. It just dissolves that isolation that social anxiety thrives on.
And it gives us the most basic, fundamental definition you could imagine. We're not talking about clinical diagnoses here. Social anxiety, in this context, is simply feeling shy or worried around others.
And that clarity is the hook. I mean, if you're struggling with something, the last thing you want is a textbook definition you can't even understand.
Right.
By just calling it shy or worried, the guide makes the feeling manageable. You can name it instantly. It becomes an emotion, not a personal failure.
So to anchor this emotion, the source introduces a protagonist, Maya. And this is so important because Maya isn't presented as someone who's, lacking in some way.
No, not at all. She's kind, she's smart, she's friendly.
Exactly. Which immediately dismantles that stereotype that social anxiety only affects people who are inherently awkward or something.
Yes. It shows that high competence and really positive social traits can exist right alongside these intense internal challenges. Maya just feels nervous when she talks to people. It's an internal friction, but it doesn't define who she is or what she's capable of. That reframing is just essential.
Okay, so we have Maya. She's capable, but she's internally challenged. Now the guide needs a moment to put her to the test. Where does this framework start to push her?
The trigger is beautifully mundane. It's her boss just announcing, we have a big team meeting today.
That's it.
That's all it takes. It's that sudden forced shift from, a feeling of safety to a performance expectation. And that initiates the whole cascade.
And this is where the guide pivots from her internal state to her physical reaction. It provides a quick map of the body's response, which makes the emotion feel so much more tangible.
And what I find so fascinating here is that it only focuses on two specific reactions. Her heart starts beating fast, and her hands feel a little cold. It doesn't give you a laundry list of 20 different symptoms.
That seems deliberate. Why do you think the guide is so brief with that list? Is that part of the strategy?
I think it has to be. When we feel anxious, our minds already tend to go toward catastrophic thinking. So if the framework listed 10 complicated physical symptoms, you might panic that you don't have all of them. Or worse, you start noticing 20 new ones you didn't even know you had.
You start symptom checking? Exactly. So by focusing on just two universal primary reactions, the fast heart, which is that internal activation, and the cold hands, the physical part, it grounds the experience immediately. It says, this is what it feels like physically. Simple as that. That makes a lot of sense. It validates the body's reaction without making the mental response even worse.
And speaking of the mental response, that internal monologue is the real engine of the anxiety here, isn't it? It's the fear of judgment distilled. Maya's thoughts, they just snap to those classic performance anxieties. What if I say something wrong? And what if people look at me?
Fear of failure and fear of scrutiny. We all recognize that instantly. It's when our inner critic becomes the loudest person in the room.
Yeah.
But this is a critical pivot in her story, because before she even walks into that room, she uses the very first actionable step in the framework. Yes, the guide offers an immediate intervention. She grounds herself, and the sequence is so clearly defined. She takes a deep breath, she pauses, and then she activates a cognitive shift with that self-affirmation, it's okay, I can do this. So that three-step intervention, the physical regulation with the breath, the pause, and then the cognitive reframe, that's the whole template for coping, and it happens before the challenge even starts.
It's vital because it establishes that you have agency, you have some control over the feeling, even if you can't just make it disappear. The deep breath calms those nervous system signals we just talked about.
The fast heart, the cold hands.
Right. And that phrase, I can do this, is a direct counterargument to the fear of failure, to that negative self-talk. It's like drawing an immediate internal boundary against the anxiety.
So now she's grounded, and she enters the meeting. The guide doesn't suggest she's suddenly the life of the party. It suggests strategy. She listens first.
And listening is such a critical strategic move. It lets her get used to the environment, gather information, and it reduces that pressure to perform immediately. It shifts the focus from herself to the actual conversation.
But the moment comes. She has to speak. Her boss asks her for her idea. And this is it. This is the moment of truth where the internal state has to meet that external demand.
And the description of her delivery, I think this contains the deepest insight of the entire framework. It says she feels nervous, the anxiety is still there, but she speaks anyway.
And the key words.
The key descriptors are that her voice is quiet but clear, and she presents her ideas in simple words.
Let's just pause on that for a second, because that is maybe the most important psychological reframing this guide offers. The success criteria here are clarity and simplicity. They're not performance mastery.
Oh, absolutely. If this were, a traditional business guide, the advice would be totally different. It would be project your voice, use assertive language, command the room.
Right.
This guide intentionally redefines success away from that. It's about effective, low-stakes communication.
Yeah.
It lowers the bar for participation so dramatically. It tells you you don't need to conquer the room, you just need to make sure your idea lands, and simplicity is how you do it.
And the anxiety itself is sort of decoupled from the outcome.
Exactly.
And what follows is this swift, positive validation that reinforces this whole new definition of success. Everyone smiles. The boss says, "Thank you, Maya. Great idea."
That positive external feedback is the reward. It closes the loop. She spoke simply, she was clear, and she was rewarded for it. And that makes the next time just a little bit easier.
Which leads to the internal reward, which is maybe even more valuable than the boss's praise. Maya feels better. She thinks, wow, I did it. And she feels proud.
It demonstrates that reciprocal relationship between these small acts of bravery and your own self-esteem. The guide proves that you generate pride not by waiting for the anxiety to disappear, but by acting despite the anxiety.
Okay, so the story provides the context, but the framework also gives the learner the practical linguistic tools to do this themselves.
Right.
Let's transition into that. What are the essential building blocks for conversation here?
The linguistic strategy is just ruthless in its efficiency. I mean, it gives you the words to name the feeling and the words to describe the action. So you have the state descriptors, nervous and social anxiety,
Yes,
the nouns,
right.
and then the actionable phrases, take a deep breath, the self-talk, I can do this, and that core statement, I feel shy around people. That last one feels so crucial. I feel shy around people. It's so simple, it's non-apologetic, it's not dramatic, it's just a clean signal to other people that this is a current state, not a rejection of them. It's functional language. But then the framework gives you these contextual phrases, which are the real engines for self-advocacy. They let you articulate your needs without having to improvise when you're already under pressure.
These are the ready-made scripts, like, sometimes I feel nervous in social situations.
Good
That's a
script.
generalization, right? It immediately shifts the focus from this one moment to a broader pattern, which normalizes it even more.
Precisely. And then there are phrases that communicate a specific challenge, like it's hard for me to talk in groups. That's actionable information for the person you're talking to. It signals where they might need to make some space for you. And then the one that is maybe the most powerful tool for just immediate coping, I need a moment to breathe. That phrase is profound. It's a moment of self-advocacy dressed up as a simple request. It lets you pause, use that deep breathing strategy we talked about, and get your composure back, all while communicating a clear need to the outside world. It lets you assert control.
And the final phrase, I'm trying to feel more comfortable. That says something really important about the process itself. It says, I am putting in effort. This is a journey, not just a fixed state.
It shifts the dynamic from being a victim of the feeling to being a proactive participant in managing it. And that brings us right back to Maya's final summary, which really sums up the entire purpose of this guide.
Right. She sums it all up by acknowledging the anxiety is still there, but her relationship with it has fundamentally changed. She says, I still feel nervous sometimes, but I can talk about it, I can ask for help, and I can take small steps.
The genius here is that it never promises a cure. It promises management. Management through communication, through process, and through small incremental action. It successfully breaks down this huge psychological challenge into bite-sized, communicable, and repeatable steps.
So if we synthesize the path this framework presents, we're really seeing 4 pillars. First, radical normalization, knowing the feeling is common. Second, efficient self-diagnosis identifying triggers, focusing only on primary symptoms. Third, using simple, immediate coping strategies, like the breathing. And finally, using simple, clear language to talk about your internal feelings and your external needs.
It transforms anxiety from this, overwhelming abstract fear into a series of really practical communication and coping choices. It makes the whole thing feel grounded, less frightening.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to consider. We highlighted that Maya succeeded in her meeting by consciously choosing to present her ideas in simple words.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, how often does the pressure we put on ourselves to sound complex or highly articulate or absolutely perfect, that desire for a perfect performance, how often does that actually contribute to the very social anxiety we're trying to manage?
Perhaps simplifying our own communication isn't just about making things clear for other people. Maybe it's a profound tool for reducing our own internal performance anxiety, allowing us to succeed, quietly, clearly, and often.
Food for thought. Until next time.